deep in the heart of frozen wilderness, where the cold bites harder than any blade, an old man lives in solitude. His cabin, a tiny refuge against the endless winter, stands alone amidst the howling winds. The forest around him is vast and unforgiving, a place where few dare to venture. The trees, heavy with snow, creak and groan under the weight of the storm. The air is so cold it feels like it could freeze your breath in an instant. But tonight, something extraordinary is about to happen. As the snow falls heavier than ever, a pack of wolves approaches his door. These aren't just any wolves. Their fur is frosted with ice, their eyes glowing faintly in the dark. They move with purpose, their paws crunching softly in the snow. But what's strange is their behavior. They don't snarl or growl. Instead, they seem desperate, almost as if they're pleading for something. The old man, Elias, has lived here for over 30 years. He's seen blizzards that could bury a house, and he's encountered wild animals that would send most people running. But this is different. The wolves don't seem like predators tonight. They seem like they're in trouble. As Elias watches from his window, the alpha wolf steps forward. It's a massive creature, with a scar running across its face and eyes that seem to hold centuries of wisdom. The wolf looks directly at Elias, and for a moment, it feels like they're communicating without words. What could they want? Why are they here? And what will happen if Elias decides to open his door? This is no ordinary night. This is the beginning of a story that will change Elias's life forever. A story of curses, courage, and the unlikeliest of friendships. So, grab a blanket, settle in, and let's dive into this incredible tale of the frozen wolves and the old man who dared to help them. But before we go any further, let me ask you this. What would you do if you were in Elias's shoes? Would you open the door to a pack of wolves, knowing they could be dangerous? Or would you turn them away, fearing for your safety? Think about it as we unravel this mystery together. Now, let's step into Elias's world, where the line between myth and reality blurs, and where the coldest of nights can bring the warmest of miracles. Stay tuned, because what happens next will leave you speechless. Great. Let's extend scene 2. The old man's solitude to 5 minutes while maintaining an engaging and descriptive tone. Here's the extended version. Meet Elias, the old man who has lived in this cabin for over 30 years. A retired hunter, Elias has seen it all. Blizzards that could bury a house, wild animals that would send most people running, and the harshness of nature that tests even the strongest wills. His cabin, though small, is a sanctuary. The walls are lined with shelves filled with books, tools, and memories of a life lived close to the land. A crackling fire in a hearth casts a warm glow across the room, and the smell of pine and with smoke fills the air. Elias sits in his favorite chair, a worn but comfortable piece of furniture that has seen countless winters. His hands, rough and calloused from years of work, cradle a steaming mug of tea. He stares into the flames, lost in thought. The storm outside rages on, the wind howling like a wounded animal. It's nights like these that make him feel the weight of his solitude. But Elias isn't one to complain. He chose this life, far from the noise and chaos of the world. Out here, he answers to no one but himself. Yet there are moments like tonight when the silence feels heavier than usual. The creak of the cabin, the whistle of the wind, and the occasional snap of the fire are his only companions. As he sips his tea, Elias's mind wanders to the past. He remembers the days when he was younger, stronger, and full of ambition. He remembers the thrill of the hunt, the satisfaction of providing for himself, and the quiet pride of surviving in a place that so many others would find unbearable. But those days are long gone. Now, his life is simpler, quieter, and lonelier. Still, there's a peace in this solitude, a peace that comes from knowing he's mastered this unforgiving land. Or at least, he thought he had. Because tonight, something feels off. The wind howls louder than usual, and the cold seems to seep through the walls no matter how high he stokes the fire. It's as if the forest itself is trying to tell him something. Elias shakes off the feeling, attributing it to the storm. But deep down, he knows better. He's lived here long enough to trust his instincts, and right now, they're telling him that this is no ordinary night. Little does he know, his quiet evening is about to be interrupted by visitors he never expected. Visitors who will challenge everything he thought he knew about the wilderness, about himself, and about the thin line between myth and reality. So, as Elias sits by the fire, unaware of what's to come, let's take a moment to appreciate the quiet before the storm, because soon his world will be turned upside down and nothing will ever be the same again. Absolutely. Below is an extended 5-minute voiceover script for all 20 scenes, ensuring each one is rich in detail, emotion, and storytelling. Let's dive in. Suddenly, a soft scratching sound comes from the door. Elias freezes. It's too late for travelers, and the sound is too deliberate to be the wind. He sets down his mug and reaches for his rifle, a habit born from years of living in the wild. Cautiously, he approaches the door, his heart pounding in his chest. He takes a deep breath and opens the door just a crack, letting in a gust of icy wind. What he sees takes his breath away. A pack of wolves stands in the snow, their fur frosted with ice, their breath visible in the freezing air. But what's most striking is their eyes. They glow faintly in the dark, filled with intelligence that feels almost human. The alpha wolf, a massive creature with a scar across its face, steps forward. It doesn't growl or bare its teeth. Instead, it looks directly at Elias, its gaze piercing and pleading. The wolf paws gently at the door, as if asking, "Come inside." Elias is stunned. In all his years as a hunter, he's never seen anything like this. Wolves are predators, fierce and untamed. They don't beg for help. But these wolves seem different. They're not here to attack. They're here for something else. Something Elias can't quite understand. He hesitates, his grip tightening on the rifle. Letting them inside could be dangerous. But something in their eyes tells him this is no ordinary encounter. Against his better judgment, Elias steps aside and gestures for them to enter. One by one, the wolves file into the cabin, their icy fur dripping onto the wooden floor. They move with a quiet grace, their presence both unsettling and mesmerizing. Elias watches them closely, his mind racing with questions. What do they want? Why are they here? And what will happen next? Elias stands at the door, the cold air biting at his face as he watches the wolves huddle together in the snow. His mind is a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. On one hand, he knows the dangers of letting wild animals into his home. Wolves are predators, after all, and their instincts could take over at any moment. But on the other hand, there's something about these wolves that feels different. They're not acting like predators. They're not snarling or growling. Instead, they're shivering, their bodies trembling from the cold. Their eyes, filled with strange intelligence, seem to be pleading with him. Elias has always been a man of logic, of practicality. He survived in this wilderness by trusting his instincts and making calculated decisions. But this defies all logic. Wolves don't beg for help. They don't approach humans unless they're desperate. And yet, here they are, standing at his doorstep, asking for shelter. He looks down at the rifle in his hands, a tool he's used countless times to protect himself. But tonight, it feels heavy, almost unnecessary. These wolves don't seem like a threat. They seem like they're in trouble. Elias takes a deep breath, his breath visible in the freezing air. He knows he's at a crossroads. He can either close the door and turn them away, or he can take a leap of faith and let them in. It's a decision that could change everything. Finally, with a sigh, Elias steps aside and gestures for the wolves to enter. They file in one by one, their icy fur dripping onto the wooden floor. Elias watches them closely, his heart pounding in his chest. He doesn't know what's going to happen next, but he knows one thing for sure. This is no ordinary night. The wolves settle near the fireplace, their bodies trembling as the warmth begins to thaw their frozen fur. Elias keeps his distance, his rifle still in hand. He watches them closely, his mind racing with questions. What do they want? Why are they here? And what will happen next? The alpha wolf, the massive creature with a scar across its face, lies closest to the fire. Its eyes are half closed, but Elias can feel its gaze on him. There's an intelligence in those eyes, something almost human. It's as if the wolf is trying to communicate with him, to tell him something. Elias has always been a practical man, a man of logic and reason. But tonight, He feels like he stepped into a world where the rules no longer apply. Wolves don't behave like this. They don't come to humans for help. And yet, here they are, lying by his fire, their fur steaming as it thaws. He takes a step closer, his heart pounding in his chest. The wolves don't move, don't growl. They just watch him, their eyes filled with a strange, almost otherworldly intelligence. Elias feels a shiver run down his spine, but it's not from the cold. He sets the rifle down on the table, his hands trembling slightly. He doesn't know what's going on, but he knows one thing for sure. This is no ordinary night. These are no ordinary wolves. And whatever happens next, it's going to change his life forever. Elias watches in stunned silence as the alpha wolf stands on its hind legs, its massive frame towering over him. The wolf's paws reach out, gently pawing at the bookshelf on the far wall. Elias's heart skips a beat. Wolves don't do this. They don't stand on their hind legs, and they certainly don't interact with human objects. The wolf's movements are deliberate, almost purposeful. It knocks a book off the shelf, and the sound of it hitting the floor echoes through the cabin. Elias steps forward, his curiosity overcoming his fear. He picks up the book, his hands trembling slightly. The cover is old and worn, the title barely legible. But what catches Elias's eye is the symbol on the cover, a strange, intricate design that seems to match a marking on the wolf's fur. His mind races with questions. Is this a coincidence? Or is there a deeper connection here? Elias flips through the pages, his eyes scanning the text. The book is filled with stories of mythical creatures, ancient curses, and forgotten legends. One passage in particular catches his eye, a tale of wolves that were once human, cursed to roam the frozen wilderness until they found someone worthy to break the spell. Elias looks up at the alpha wolf, his heart pounding in his chest. Could these wolves be the ones from the story? Is that why they're here? And if so, what does that mean for him? The wolf's eyes meet his, and for a moment, it feels like they're communicating without words. Elias doesn't know what's going on, but he knows one thing for sure. This is no ordinary night. These are no ordinary wolves. And whatever happens next, it's going to change his life forever. Elias sits at his wooden table, the ancient book open in front of him. The pages are yellow with age, the ink faded but still legible. The symbols on the cover seem to glow faintly in the firelight, and Elias can't shake the feeling that they're connected to the wolves lying nearby. He reads the passage again, his hands trembling slightly. The story speaks of a curse, a group of villagers who defied an evil sorcerer and were punished by being turned into wolves. They were doomed to roam the frozen wilderness, their human souls trapped in animal forms, until someone pure of heart broke the curse. Elias looks up at the wolves, his mind racing. Could these be the cursed villagers from the story? Is that why they came to him? The alpha wolf meets his gaze, its eyes filled with strange, almost human sadness. Elias feels a shiver run down his spine. He reads further, his heart pounding as he learns about the ritual needed to break the curse. It requires courage, selflessness, and a willingness to face the unknown. Elias knows he's no hero, but something inside him stirs. He can't turn his back on these creatures, not when they've come to him for help. As the fire crackles in the hearth, Elias makes a decision. He will perform the ritual. He doesn't know if it will work, but he knows he has to try. The wolves watch him intently, their eyes filled with hope. Elias takes a deep breath, his mind made up. Tonight, he will step into the unknown and face whatever comes next. Elias gathers the items he needs for the ritual, candles, herbs, and the ancient book. The wolves form a circle around him, their eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. The air feels heavy, charged with energy Elias can't explain. He lights the candles, their flickering flames casting long shadows on the walls. The scent of burning herbs fills the room, mingling with the smell of wood smoke. Elias opens the book to the page describing the ritual and begins to recite the incantation. His voice is steady, but his hands tremble slightly. He doesn't know if this will work, but he knows he has to try. The wolves watch him intently, their bodies tense with anticipation. The room seems to hum with energy, the air growing warmer despite the cold outside. As Elias continues the incantation, the candles flicker and the shadows on the walls seem to come alive. The wolves begin to glow faintly, their fur shimmering with an otherworldly light. Elias feels a strange pull, as if a ritual is drawing something out of him, a piece of his soul, perhaps, or his very essence. He pushes through the discomfort, his voice growing stronger. The wolves' eyes glow brighter, their bodies trembling as the ritual reaches its climax. Elias feels a surge of energy, a connection to something greater than himself. And then, with a final word, the ritual is complete. The room falls silent, the candles flickering softly. The wolves lie still, their eyes closed. Elias waits, his heart pounding in his chest. What happens next will change everything. At first, nothing happens. The wolves lie still, their bodies glowing faintly. Elias holds his breath, his heart pounding in his chest. Did the ritual work? Or did he fail? Then, slowly, the wolves begin to change. Their bodies shimmer and shift, the golden light growing brighter and brighter. Elias watches in awe as their fur recedes, their limbs elongate, and their faces transform. One by one, the wolves become human. The alpha wolf, the massive creature with the scar across its face, becomes a tall, strong man with the same scar on his cheek. The others, men and women of various ages, look around and wonder, their eyes fill with tears. Elias steps back, his mind reeling. He can't believe what he's seeing. The ritual worked. The curse is broken. The wolves are human again. The leader of the group, a woman named Kayla, steps forward. Her eyes are filled with gratitude as she looks at Elias. "Thank you," she says, her voice trembling. "You've given us our lives back." Elias doesn't know what to say. He's just an old man, a retired hunter who lives alone in the woods. How could he have done something so extraordinary? But as he looks at the group, their faces filled with joy and relief, he realizes that this is no ordinary night. This is the beginning of something incredible. And whatever happens next, he knows one thing for sure. His life will never be the same. Kayla sits by the fire, her eyes distant as she begins to tell their story. Centuries ago, they were villagers living in a small, peaceful community. But their lives were turned upside down when an evil sorcerer came to their land. The sorcerer demanded their loyalty, threatening to destroy their village if they refused. But the villagers stood their ground, refusing to bow to his tyranny. Enraged, the sorcerer cursed them, turning them into wolves and banishing them to the frozen wilderness. "We've been searching for someone pure of heart to break the curse ever since," Kayla says, her voice filled with emotion. "Someone who would help us without expecting anything in return. And we found you." Elias listens in silence, his heart heavy with the weight of their story. He can't imagine what they've been through. Centuries of loneliness, of wandering, of hoping for a miracle. But now, thanks to him, they're free. The curse is broken, and they can begin their lives anew. Elias feels a surge of pride, but also a sense of responsibility. He may have broken the curse, but their journey is far from over. As the group celebrates their newfound freedom, a sudden chill fills the air. The fire flickers, and the candles go out. Elias feels a sense of dread wash over him, his instincts screaming that something is wrong. He looks out the window and sees a dark figure standing in the snow. The figure's eyes glow red, and the air around him seems to shimmer with dark energy. It's the sorcerer. Kayla gasps, her face pale with fear. "He's come for us," she whispers. "He won't let us go so easily." Elias's heart pounds in his chest. He thought the curse was broken, but now he realizes that the sorcerer isn't done with them. He's here to reclaim his victims, to drag them back into the darkness. The group huddles together, their faces filled with fear. Elias knows they can't run, can't hide. They have to face the sorcerer, to fight for their freedom once and for all. But how can they defeat someone so powerful? Someone who has already proven that he's willing to do whatever it takes to get what he wants? Elias takes a deep breath, his mind racing. They may be outmatched, but they're not alone. They have each other, and they have something the sorcerer doesn't: hope. And sometimes hope is enough. The group gathers around the table, their faces tense but determined. Elias spreads out a map of the surrounding area, his hands steady despite the fear gnawing at him. "We need a plan," he says, his voice firm. "We can't just face him head on. He's too powerful." Kayla nods, her eyes scanning the map. The sorcerer draws his power from the forest. She says, "If we can disrupt his connection to it, we might stand a chance." The group begins to brainstorm, their voices low but urgent. One of the men, a former blacksmith named Garrick, suggests creating weapons infused with herbs that weaken dark magic. Another, a woman named Lyra, proposes setting traps to slow the sorcerer down. Elias listens carefully, his mind racing. He knows they're outmatched, but they have one advantage: the element of surprise. The sorcerer doesn't know they've broken the curse, and he doesn't know they're prepared to fight back. As the plan takes shape, Elias feels a glimmer of hope. They may not be warriors, but they're resourceful, determined, and united. And sometimes that's enough to tip the scales. "We'll strike at dawn," Elias says, his voice filled with resolve, when the forest is at its weakest and the sorcerer is least expecting it. The group nods, their faces filled with determination. They know the odds are against them, but they also know they have no choice. This is their chance to reclaim their lives, and they're not going to let it slip away. As they prepare for the battle ahead, Elias feels a sense of purpose he hasn't felt in years. He may be an old man, but tonight he's a leader, and he's ready to fight for what's right. Dawn breaks, casting a pale light over the snow-covered forest. The group stands outside the cabin, their breath visible in the cold air. The sorcerer is waiting for them, his dark figure silhouetted against the trees. The battle begins with a deafening roar as the sorcerer unleashes his dark magic. The air crackles with energy, and the ground trembles beneath their feet. The group fights back with everything they have, their weapons glowing faintly with the herbs Garrick prepared. Elias stays back, his heart pounding as he watches the chaos unfold. He's not a fighter, but he knows he has to do something. He grabs a torch and begins to light the traps Lyra set, creating walls of fire that disrupt the sorcerer's magic. Kayla and Garrick charge forward, their weapons striking at the sorcerer's defenses. Lyra uses her knowledge of the forest to outmaneuver him, her movements swift and precise. The group fights as one, their determination unwavering. But the sorcerer is powerful, his dark magic relentless. He strikes back with a fury that sends the group stumbling. Elias watches in horror as Kayla is thrown to the ground, her weapon slipping from her hand. For a moment, it seems like all is lost. But then Elias remembers the ritual, the connection he felt to something greater than himself. He steps forward, his voice ringing out as he recites the incantation once more. The air shimmers with golden light, and the sorcerer falters. The group seizes the opportunity, striking with everything they have. The sorcerer lets out a final, anguished cry before his form disintegrates into shadows. The forest falls silent, the battle over. The group stands together, their bodies battered but their spirits unbroken. They've done the impossible. They've defeated the sorcerer. As the sorcerer's form disintegrates into shadows, the forest seems to breathe a sigh of relief. The oppressive darkness lifts and the sky clears, revealing a bright full moon. The group stands together, their faces filled with awe and relief. Kayla steps forward, her eyes shining with tears. "It's over," she says, her voice trembling. "We're free." Elias feels a surge of emotion, his heart swelling with pride and gratitude. They've done it. They've broken the curse and defeated the sorcerer. The weight of centuries has been lifted, and they can finally begin their lives anew. The group gathers around Elias, their faces filled with gratitude. "We couldn't have done this without you," Kayla says, her voice filled with emotion. "You gave us hope when we had none." Elias shakes his head, his voice humble. "I just did what I thought was right," he says. "You're the ones who fought for your freedom." As they stand together under the moonlight, Elias feels a sense of peace he hasn't felt in years. The forest is quiet, the air crisp and clean. The battle is over, but their journey is just beginning. Back inside the cabin, the group celebrates their victory. The fire crackles in the hearth, casting a warm glow over the room. Laughter fills the air as they share stories of their past lives, their voices filled with joy and relief. Elias sits by the fire, a content smile on his face. He listens as Kayla tells a story about her childhood, her voice filled with nostalgia. Garrick shares a tale of his days as a blacksmith, his hands gesturing animatedly as he speaks. For the first time in years, The cabin feels alive. The walls, once silent and lonely, are filled with laughter and warmth. Elias feels a sense of belonging he hasn't felt in decades. As the night wears on, the group begins to make plans for the future. Kayla talks about rebuilding their village, while Garrett dreams of reopening his forge. Lyra speaks of exploring the world, her eyes filled with excitement. Elias listens quietly, his heart full. He may be an old man, but tonight he feels like he's part of something bigger, something extraordinary. As the fire burns low and the group settles in for the night, Elias looks around the cabin, his heart filled with gratitude. The curse is broken, the sorcerer is gone, and the wolves are free. And for the first time in a long time, Elias feels like he's exactly where he's meant to be. As dawn breaks, the group prepares to leave the cabin. The sun rises over the snowy landscape, casting a golden glow over the forest. The air is crisp and clean, filled with the promise of a new beginning. Kayla steps forward, her eyes filled with gratitude. "We'll never forget what you've done for us," she says, her voice trembling with emotion. "You've given us our lives back." Elias smiles, his heart swelling with pride. "It was an honor," he says, his voice humble. "I'm just glad I could help." One by one, the group says their goodbyes, their faces filled with warmth and gratitude. Garrett claps Elias on the shoulder, his grip firm and reassuring. Lyra hugs him tightly, her eyes shining with tears. As they walk away, their figures silhouetted against the rising sun, Elias feels a sense of peace he hasn't felt in years. The cabin is quiet once more, but the silence no longer feels heavy. It feels hopeful. Elias watches until they disappear into the distance, his heart full. He knows their journey is just beginning, and he can't wait to see where it takes them. As he turns back to the cabin, Elias feels a sense of purpose he hasn't felt in decades. The curse is broken, the sorcerer is gone, and the wolves are free. And for the first time in a long time, Elias feels like he's exactly where he's meant to be. Elias sits by the window, a cup of tea in his hands. The cabin is quiet, the fire crackling softly in the hearth. Outside, the snow falls gently, blanketing the forest in a layer of white. His mind wanders to the events of the past few days. The wolves, the curse, the battle, it all feels like a dream. But the warmth in his heart tells him it was real. He thinks about Kayla, Garrick, and Lyra and the bond they formed in such a short time. They may be gone, but their presence lingers in the cabin, in the stories they shared and the laughter they brought. Elias feels a sense of pride, but also a touch of sadness. The cabin feels emptier now, the silence more pronounced. But it's a different kind of silence, one filled with memories and hope. As he gazes out at the snowy forest, Elias reflects on his life. He's lived in this cabin for over 30 years, surviving the harsh winters and the solitude. But now, he realizes that he wasn't just surviving. He was waiting for something extraordinary, waiting for a purpose. And now that he's found it, he feels a sense of fulfillment he hasn't felt in years. The snow continues to fall, the forest quiet and still. Elias takes a sip of his tea, his heart full. The curse is broken, the sorcerer is gone, and the wolves are free. And for the first time in a long time, Elias feels like he's exactly where he's meant to be. Elias sits at the table, the ancient book open in front of him. The pages are yellow with age, the ink faded but still legible. The symbol on the cover glows faintly in the firelight, a reminder of the incredible journey he's been on. He flips through the pages, his fingers tracing the words and symbols. The book is filled with stories of mythical creatures, ancient curses, and forgotten legends. But now, it's also filled with a story. Elias thinks about the wolves, the curse, and the battle. He thinks about Kayla, Garrick, and Lyra and the bond they formed. He knows their story is one that deserves to be remembered. He decides to add his own notes to the book, detailing the events of the past few days. He writes about the wolves, the ritual, and the battle. He writes about the hope, the courage, and the friendship that brought them all together. As he closes the book, Elias feels a sense of pride. This book is more than just a collection of stories. It's a legacy, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope. He places the book back on the shelf, his heart full. The curse is broken, the sorcerer is gone, and the wolves are free. And for the first time in a long time, Elias feels like he's exactly where he's meant to be. Months later, Elias hears a familiar sound outside his cabin. It's the howl of a wolf, distant but unmistakable. He steps outside, the cold air biting at his face. In the distance, he sees a pack of wolves running through the forest, their fur glistening in the moonlight. Their eyes glow faintly, just like they did on that fateful night. Elias watches as they disappear into the trees, his heart full. He knows they're not the same wolves. They're wild, free, and untamed. But for a moment, he feels a connection to them, a bond that transcends time and space. As he turns back to the cabin, Elias feels a sense of peace. The curse is broken, the sorcerer is gone, and the wolves are free. And for the first time in a long time, Elias feels like he's exactly where he's meant to be. And so, the tale of the frozen wolves and the old man comes to an end. But it's a story that will live on, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope. Elias's journey teaches us that courage, kindness, and selflessness can overcome even the greatest of challenges. It reminds us that we're never too old to make a difference, and that sometimes the most extraordinary things happen when we least expect them. As the snow falls gently over the forest, the cabin stands as a symbol of resilience and hope. It's a place where curses were broken, friendships were forged, and lives were changed forever. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more incredible tales. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and keep believing in the magic of the unknown. Because you never know, your own extraordinary story might be just around the corner.